Guidance clearly the standout, as you say, Mike. If you are looking to pick holes in this, the beat for this quarter was slightly on the Mac, slightly on the wearables. The wearables in particular, a strong year-over-year growth rate of 50%. Very slight miss on iPhone and on services, Ed Lee, which is the key things long-term.
Long-term, services is the narrative they want us to go with. I think the China business was interesting that they moderated from the previous quarter where it was down 4% versus much bigger last quarter. That gives us a sign of, the challenges they've been facing in China. They've been able to handle it. They've been able to deal with it. But I'm with Mike here. I think it's clear that half an iPhone company, we need to look at these other businesses. Again, services, I'd like to know more, get more color on what exactly makes up the components of services. We know it's advertising and some media stuff and some one-off sales, but
some other really fat profit margin things,
exactly,
64.1% on margins for services, up 13%. Ed Snyder, your reaction?
I agree it's slightly better than expected, but with the services as a higher mix and their gross margin continuing to decline, kind of suggests what's going on with iPhone is fading a bit. There is speculation they're going to enter in more of the mid-tier market at the beginning of next year, which would be a very good thing. Ultimately, they've got to expand their reach of iPhone beyond the high end and try to move into the mid-tier to sustain the consumer base for the services businesses. If they're able to do that, things will work out. If they're not, they'll start to ebb. So we'll see how it changes. We'll see how the fall launch goes, which is a lot of eyes towards how successful the new phones are.
Apple shares up more than 3% after hours. Let's go back to Josh Lipton for more. Josh.
Yes, sir. I did have the chance to check in with Apple CEO Tim Cook about a few issues. I want to bring you his comments. One, as you guys are mentioning, iPhone revenue of $26 billion, that was down 12%. That is a sequential improvement, though. And Cook has talked about how he has these levers to pull when it comes to the iPhone. For example, we know one issue with the iPhone franchise is that replacement cycle is getting longer. People are holding on to their phones for longer. So trade-in programs, he's mentioned as a lever that can work there to mitigate that. I asked him whether trade-in programs did have an impact. Cook telling me it was a key part of the improvement sequentially. Also, the trade-in and financing program were key to our results in China. It was an important part of what we did, in addition to what I mentioned last call, that we were going to ignore the FX changes and essentially lower the price. And so that, combined with the trade-ins and the financing programs, as well as the government stimulus, which included a VAT reduction, all of these things mixed together explain the -20 going to -4 in China. He's talking there about the difference in Greater China revenue. I did also ask him about these potential tariff threats and listen, whether he has made any changes to his supply chain in response to those potential tariffs coming. Cook telling me we've made no significant changes. Keep in mind for us, our products are made everywhere. You look underneath the hood, you've got a significant amount of the silicon coming from the U.S. You've got displays coming from Japan and Korea. The aggregate looks very different when you portion it out by country. Guys, back to you.
Thanks very much for that, Josh. The stock is up 3.3%. Let's get to Nancy Tengler for her reaction. Nancy, you're a shareholder. What's your take on the numbers?
Thanks, Will. Listen, I think it was a great quarter in this regard. I mean, I think Mike's point is the right one. Very quickly, the company has grown their way away from the iPhone being super dominant in terms of total revenues. I thought the services numbers were just a tad weak. China was very encouraging in terms of a slowdown in the sequential decline. And I think wearables is a bright spot for the ecosystem. So in general, I think the little bits of bad news were offset by some powerful news in other segments. And then you can't argue with the margins. It's impressive.
So, Ed Lee, just in terms of what Tim Cook told Josh Lipton and what drove the improvement, even though iPhone revenue down, down 12%, the trade-in programs, trade-in and financing in China, what's the significance of that?
Well, clearly they're speaking to the Chinese consumer. They're always looking for value, right? And that's going to be a huge part of it. It's a program that they've been implementing here in the U.S. as well, so it makes sense that they've carried it over. But again, it also tells you the competition, that that's a huge thing for them to deal with. There's Huawei out there. There's a bunch of other competitors that gaining stream. And also, these phones, even they might be cheaper, are just as good in their eyes in terms of the functionality and what it's got. Chinese phones also on the mobile system. WeChat is the main sort of operating system for how a lot of these things work. So whether it's an Apple phone or a Huawei phone, consumers kind of don't care. They just want to know what they're paying.